Dina Mercer remembered every detail of that day. She could still smell the coal dust in the air, feel the cold metal of her helmet, hear the sounds of the mine around her. It was 3 years ago, but in her mind, it felt like yesterday. She had been 40 years old then, strong and confident. She had worked in mine rescue for 15 years. She knew the mountains, knew the mines, knew the dangers. She was good at her job. People trusted her. They said she had a gift for finding people in the dark, for staying calm when others panicked. That morning had started like any other morning. Dina woke up at 5 o'clock. She made coffee in her small apartment near the mine. She ate toast and looked out the window at the dark mountains. The sun was just starting to rise. It was beautiful. At 6 o'clock, she drove to the mine. Her team was already there. There were 7 people on her team. There was Tom, the team leader, a man with gray hair and kind eyes. There was Sarah, her best friend, who always made jokes even in dangerous situations. There were Mike, David, Lisa, Carlos, and young Jimmy, who had just joined the team 6 months ago. "Morning, Dina," Sarah said with a smile. She held a cup of coffee. "Ready for another boring day of training?" Dina smiled back. "I hope it's boring. Boring is good in our line of work." They were supposed to do a training exercise that day. They were going to practice rescue techniques in one of the old mine shafts. It was routine. They had done it hundreds of times before. But then the call came. There was an emergency at the Blue Ridge mine, 20 miles away. A section of the mine had collapsed. 12 miners were trapped underground. The local rescue team was already there, but they needed help. They needed experienced people. "Let's go," Tom said. His face was serious now. "Get your gear. We leave in 5 minutes." Dina's heart started beating faster. This was real. This was what they trained for. She put on her protective suit, checked her equipment, made sure everything was working. Her hands were steady. She had done this before. She would do it again. They drove to the Blue Ridge mine in 2 trucks. The road was rough and winding. Nobody talked much. They were all thinking about what they would find there. When they arrived, the scene was chaos. There were fire trucks, ambulances, police cars everywhere. Family members of the trapped miners stood behind barriers, crying, waiting for news. The mine manager was talking to the local rescue team, his face pale with worry. Tom spoke with the local team leader. Dina stood nearby, listening. The situation was bad, very bad. The collapse had happened deep in the mine, in one of the oldest sections. The tunnel had filled with dust and debris. They didn't know if the miners were alive. They didn't know if the tunnel was stable. They didn't know how much time they had. "We need to go in from the north entrance," Tom said. "It's the safest route. We'll need to clear the debris as we go. Dina, Sarah, you're with me. Mike and David, you stay here and coordinate with the local team. Lisa, Carlos, Jimmy, you prepare the backup equipment." Dina nodded. She put on her helmet, turned on her headlamp, checked her radio one more time. She looked at Sarah. Sarah smiled at her, but Dina could see the worry in her friend's eyes. "Be careful in there," Mike said. "Always am," Dina replied. They entered the mine. The darkness swallowed them immediately. Dina's headlamp cut through the black, showing rough stone walls, wooden support beams, rail tracks on the ground. The air was cold and damp. Every sound echoed, their footsteps, their breathing, the drip of water somewhere in the distance. They walked deeper into the mine. The tunnel sloped downward. After 10 minutes, they reached the first obstacle, a pile of rocks and broken wood blocking the path. They started clearing it, working quickly but carefully. They had to be quiet, had to listen for any sounds from beyond the collapse. "Do you hear that?" Sarah whispered. She held up her hand. They all stopped. They listened. There was a sound, faint, but there. It was tapping. Someone was alive on the other side. "They're there," Tom said. Let's move faster." They worked for an hour, clearing the debris. The tapping continued. Sometimes it stopped, and Dina's heart would freeze. Then it would start again, and she would feel relief wash over her. Finally, they made a hole large enough to see through. Tom shone his light through the gap. "Hello? Can you hear us?" "Yes." "Yes, we're here." A voice came from the other side. "We're alive." All 12 of us. Dina felt tears in her eyes. They were alive. All of them. Now they just had to get them out. But that's when everything went wrong. There was a sound. A deep, terrible sound that Dina knew too well. It was the sound of stone cracking, of support beams breaking, of a mountain moving. "Get back!" Tom shouted. "The tunnel is collapsing!" They ran, but the collapse was faster. Dina heard Sarah scream behind her. She turned around and saw her friend disappear under a wave of rock and dust. She tried to reach her, but Tom grabbed her arm and pulled her away. "We have to go! Now!" They ran through the tunnel. The collapse chased them. The air filled with dust so thick they couldn't see. Dina couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She just ran. They made it out. Barely. They burst out of the mine entrance and fell to the ground, coughing, gasping for air. Dina looked back at the tunnel. It was completely blocked. Hundreds of tons of rock had fallen. The entrance was sealed. "Sarah," she whispered. "Tom, Sarah is still in there." Tom's face was gray with dust and shock. "I know. Mike, David, Lisa, Carlos, Jimmy, they went in through the south entrance to help the trapped miners. They're all in there now." Dina couldn't process what he was saying. Her whole team, her friends, Sarah. They were all trapped, all of them. The rescue operation lasted 3 days. Teams came from all over the state. They tried everything. They drilled. They dug. They used special equipment. Dina worked without stopping, without sleeping, without eating. She had to find them. She had to save them. But on the 3rd day, they found the bodies. All 19 people. The 12 trapped miners and the 7 members of Dina's rescue team. The collapse had been too severe. They had died quickly, the experts said. They didn't suffer much, they said. But Dina knew better. She had been in collapses before. She knew what it was like to be trapped in the dark, to run out of air, to know that nobody was coming in time. They had suffered. Sarah had suffered, and Dina hadn't been able to save them. The funeral was the hardest thing Dina had ever experienced. She stood in her black dress, watching 7 coffins being lowered into the ground. Sarah's family was there, her husband, her 2 children, aged 8 and 10. They cried, and Dina wanted to comfort them, but she couldn't. She couldn't even look at them, because it was her fault. That's what she believed. She should have been faster. She should have heard the warning signs earlier. She should have done something different. She was the experienced one. She was supposed to save people. Instead, her best friend had died while Dina ran away to save herself. "It wasn't your fault," Tom said to her after the funeral. He looked old now, broken. He blamed himself too. "You did everything right. Sometimes these things just happen." But Dina didn't believe him. She replayed that moment in her mind over and over again. Sarah reaching for her, Sarah screaming, Dina running away. She tried to go back to work. She tried to continue with her job. But every time she put on her helmet, every time she stood at the entrance of a mine, she couldn't breathe. Her heart would race, her hands would shake, her vision would go dark. The panic attacks started a week after the funeral. They came without warning, in the middle of the night, in the morning, while she was driving. The nightmares were worse. She dreamed about the collapse every night. Sometimes she was the one trapped. Sometimes she could hear Sarah calling for help, but she couldn't move, couldn't reach her. She would wake up screaming, covered in sweat, unable to breathe. After 2 months, her supervisor called her into his office. He was a good man, Dina knew. He had worked with her for years. "Dina, I think you need to take some time off, he said gently. You've been through a terrible trauma. You need to heal. I'm fine, Dina said, but her hands were shaking. No, you're not. And that's okay. But you can't work like this. It's not safe. Not for you, not for the people you're trying to rescue. Take some time. See a therapist. When you're ready, come back. But Dina knew she would never be ready. She couldn't do this job anymore. She couldn't go into mines, couldn't face the darkness, couldn't risk losing anyone else. She resigned a week later. 15 years of experience, 15 years of saving lives, gone. She sold her apartment, packed everything she owned into her old truck, and drove away from the mountains she had known all her life. She didn't know where she was going. She just drove. North, always north. Away from the mines, away from the memories, away from the pain. Dina drove for 3 days. She stopped only to sleep in cheap motels and eat at roadside diners. She didn't talk to anyone. She didn't call anyone. She just wanted to disappear. On the 3rd day, her truck started making a strange noise. She was on a small highway, far from any city. The noise got louder. Then smoke started coming from the engine. Dina pulled over to the side of the road. She got out and looked at the engine. She knew a little about cars. Everyone in the mine rescue business had to. But this looked serious. She was in the middle of nowhere. She checked her phone. No signal. Great, she muttered. Just perfect. She looked around. She could see a small town about a mile down the road. She locked her truck, put her backpack on her shoulder, and started walking. The town was very small. There was one main street with a few shops, a grocery store, a post office, a diner, a hardware store. There was a church with a white steeple. There were old houses with front porches and gardens. Everything looked peaceful and quiet. Dina found what she was looking for, a small auto repair shop at the end of the main street. The sign said, Joe's Auto Repair. She walked into the garage. An old man was working on a car. He had white hair and strong hands covered with grease. He looked up when Dina entered. Help you? He asked. My truck broke down about a mile from here, Dina said. It's making a bad noise and smoking. Can you take a look? The old man wiped his hands on a rag. Sure thing. Let me get my tow truck. I'm Joe, by the way. Joe Parker, Dinah Mercer. Joe nodded. Nice to meet you, Dina. You just passing through? Yeah, just passing through. Joe drove Dina back to her truck in his old tow truck. He looked at the engine and shook his head. That's not good. Your engine is damaged. It's going to take me a few days to fix it. Maybe a week. I need to order some parts. Dina's heart sank. A week. She would have to stay here for a week. How much will it cost? About $800, give or take. Dina did some quick math in her head. She had some savings, but not much. She needed to make that money last. Okay, do what you need to do. Joe towed her truck back to his shop. There's a motel just outside town, Martha's Motel. It's clean and cheap. You can stay there while you wait. Dina found Martha's Motel. It was just as Joe described. Small, old, but clean. She rented a room for a week. The room had a bed, a table, a TV, and a small bathroom. It was enough. That first night, Dina lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. She was in the middle of nowhere, in a town whose name she didn't even know, with a broken truck and not much money. But somehow, she felt calmer than she had felt in months. Maybe it was because nobody here knew her. Nobody knew what she had done, what she had failed to do. The next morning, she walked into town to find some breakfast. She found a small diner called Tom's Diner. Inside, it was warm and smelled like coffee and bacon. There were a few people eating, older people mostly, talking quietly. They looked at Dina with curiosity when she walked in, but nobody said anything. She sat at the counter. A man came over. He was about 60, with a friendly face. Morning, what can I get you? Coffee and eggs, please. And toast. Coming right up. I'm Tom, by the way. I own this place. Dina. You're the one whose truck broke down yesterday, right? Joe told me about you. Small town. News travels fast. He smiled. Where are you from? West Virginia, Dina said. She didn't want to say more. Tom seemed to sense this. Well, welcome to Millbrook. It's not much, but it's peaceful. Good place to rest for a while. Millbrook. So that was the name of the town. Dina ate her breakfast slowly. The eggs were good. The coffee was strong. Through the window, she watched the town wake up. People walked by with their dogs. A mother pushed a baby stroller. An old man sat on a bench and read a newspaper. Everything was slow and quiet. After breakfast, Dina walked around the town. She found a small library, a park with playground equipment, a few more shops. At the grocery store, a Chinese woman with gray hair smiled at her. You new here? Just passing through, Dina said. Ah, well, if you need anything, let me know. I'm Mrs. Chen. I've run this store for 30 years. Dina bought some basic supplies: bread, coffee, soap, shampoo. Mrs. Chen talked the whole time, telling her about the town, about the people, about the upcoming harvest festival. Dina listened but didn't say much. As she walked back to the motel, Dina realized something. She had smiled at Mrs. Chen. Just a small smile, but still. It was the first time she had smiled since the accident. The week passed slowly. Dina fell into a routine. She woke up early, had breakfast at Tom's diner, walked around town, went back to her motel room, tried to read or watch TV, had dinner at the diner again, and went to sleep. The nightmares still came, but not every night. The panic attacks still happened, but less often. Joe worked on her truck. Sometimes Dina would go to his shop to check on the progress. He was always patient with her, explaining what he was doing, showing her the parts he was replacing. You know a bit about engines? He asked one day. A little. I worked with machinery in my old job. What did you do? Dina hesitated. I worked in mining, safety and rescue. Joe nodded slowly. He didn't ask more questions. Dina was grateful for that. On the 5th day, a young man came into Joe's shop. He was about 25, tall and thin, with dark skin and a bright smile. Hey, Joe! I brought the parts you ordered. Thanks, Marcus. Oh, this is Dina. Dina, this is Marcus. He's my helper. He's also studying mechanical engineering at the community college. Marcus shook Dina's hand enthusiastically. Nice to meet you. Are you staying in town? Just until my truck is fixed. Well, it's a nice place to stay. Quiet. Not much happens here, but that's not always a bad thing, right? Dina found herself smiling again. Marcus had an infectious energy. He reminded her a little of Jimmy, the youngest member of her old rescue team. The thought made her sad, but also warm. She had good memories with Jimmy, too, not just the terrible last one. Over the next few days, Dina talked more with Marcus. He was curious about everything, always asking questions. He asked about her old job, and Dina told him some things. Not about the accident, but about the good times. About rescuing a trapped miner and seeing him reunite with his family. About the satisfaction of solving a difficult problem. About working as a team. That sounds amazing, Marcus said. You must have been really good at it. I was okay, Dina said quietly. On the 7th day, Joe finished repairing her truck. She's good as new. Maybe better. I replaced a few other parts that were wearing out. She should run smoothly now. Dina paid him. She got into her truck, started the engine. It purred smoothly. Joe was right. It sounded better than it had in years. She should leave now. She should keep driving north, find somewhere else, start over somewhere else. But as she sat in the truck, ready to go, she looked around Millbrook. She saw Mrs. Chen sweeping the sidewalk in front of her store. She saw Tom setting up tables outside his diner for lunch. She saw Marcus waving at her from Joe's shop. For some reason she couldn't explain, She didn't want to leave. She drove to Martha's motel and rented the room for another week. After 2 weeks in Millbrook, Dina's money was running low. She needed to find work. But what could she do? She had spent 15 years doing one thing: mine rescue. She didn't have other skills. She hadn't even finished college. She sat in her motel room, looking at job listings on her phone. There wasn't much available in a small town like Millbrook, and most jobs required experience she didn't have. There was a knock on her door. She opened it to find Marcus standing there. "Hey, Dina. Joe sent me to find you. He wants to talk to you." Dina followed Marcus to the repair shop. Joe was in his office doing paperwork. He looked up when she came in. "Sit down, Dina," he said. She sat. She felt nervous. Had she done something wrong?
"He wants to talk to you." Dina followed Marcus to the repair shop. Joe was in his office, doing paperwork. He looked up when she came in. "Sit down, Dina," he said. She sat. She felt nervous. Had she done something wrong?
"I've been watching you this past couple weeks," Joe said. "You come by the shop often. You ask good questions about the repairs. You understand mechanical things. Marcus tells me you told him about your old job, working with machinery, solving problems under pressure." Dina nodded slowly. "Yes." "I need help," Joe said bluntly. "I'm 72 years old. This shop is too much for just me and Marcus. Marcus is great, but he's still in school. I need someone with experience, someone reliable, someone who can handle complicated repairs. I think you might be that person." Dina stared at him. "You're offering me a job?" "Yes. It doesn't pay much. This is a small town. We don't have a lot of business, but it's steady work. And if you need a place to stay, there's an apartment above the shop. It's small, but it's better than a motel room. I haven't rented it out in years, but I'll clean it up for you." Dina didn't know what to say. A job, a place to live, in this quiet little town where nobody knew her past. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You don't even know me." Joe smiled. "I'm a good judge of character. I've been running this shop for 45 years. I know good people when I see them, and you're running from something. I can see that. But you're not a bad person. You're just hurting. Sometimes people who are hurting need a quiet place to heal. Millbrook can be that place." Dina felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them back. "I don't know if I deserve this." "That's not for you to decide," Joe said gently. "Do you want the job or not?" Dina thought about it. She thought about getting back in her truck and driving away. She thought about starting over somewhere else, alone, running forever from what had happened. Or she could stay here. She could work with her hands, fix things instead of breaking them. She could have a home, even if temporary. She could be Dina, the mechanic, instead of Dina, the failure. "Yes," she said quietly. "I want the job." Joe nodded. "Good. You start Monday. Come by tomorrow and I'll show you the apartment." Dina moved into the apartment above Joe's shop a week later. It was small. Just one room that served as bedroom and living room, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom. But it had large windows that let in lots of light. It had a comfortable bed and a table where she could eat. It was more than enough. Marcus helped her move her few belongings from the truck. "Welcome to Millbrook," he said. "I think you're going to like it here." "I hope so," Dina said. That night, she stood at her window and looked out at the town. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. She could see the church steeple, the main street, the mountains in the distance. Everything was peaceful. For the first time in 3 years, Dina allowed herself to think that maybe, just maybe, she could have a life again. Monday morning came quickly. Dina woke up early, nervous about her first day at work. She dressed in jeans and an old t-shirt, tied her hair back, and went downstairs to the shop. Joe was already there, working on a car. "Good morning," he said. "Ready to learn?" Ready, Dina said. The first few days were overwhelming. There was so much to learn. Cars were different from the machinery she had worked with in the mines. The engines were smaller, more complex. There were electrical systems, computer diagnostics, specialized tools. But Dina was a quick learner. She had always been good with her hands, good at understanding how things worked. And Joe was a patient teacher. He showed her everything step by step. He didn't rush her. He let her make mistakes and learn from them. "You're doing well," he said at the end of the first week. "Better than I expected." Marcus helped too. He was studying engineering, so he understood the theory behind everything. He could explain why things worked the way they did. Dina found that understanding the why helped her remember the how. The work was good for her. It kept her hands busy and her mind focused. When she was taking apart an engine or fixing a transmission, she wasn't thinking about the past. She wasn't seeing Sarah's face or hearing her scream. She was just in the present moment, solving the problem in front of her. The people of Millbrook brought their cars and trucks to Joe's shop. Dina met them one by one. There was Mr. Peterson, who had an old farm truck that always needed something fixed. There was young Emily, who had just graduated high school and bought her first car. There was the Chen family, who ran the grocery store. There was Tom from the diner, who brought his delivery van. They were all kind to her. They made small talk while she worked. They asked simple questions: where she was from, how she liked Millbrook. Dina gave simple answers. She didn't tell them about her past. She didn't want pity or questions. But sometimes, late at night in her apartment, the darkness would come back. She would lie in bed, and the memories would flood in. She would see the mine, feel the dust in her lungs, hear the terrible sound of the collapse. She would think about Sarah, about what her friend's last moments must have been like. Those nights, she didn't sleep. She would sit by her window and watch the empty street until morning came. Dina's apartment was above the shop, but next door there was a small house where an old woman lived. Her name was Mrs. Patterson, and she was the most curious person Dina had ever met. Mrs. Patterson was about 80 years old, short and round, with white curly hair and bright blue eyes. She loved to talk, and she especially loved to talk to Dina. "Good morning, dear," she would call out every morning when Dina came downstairs. "How did you sleep?" "Are you eating enough? You look thin. You should come over for dinner sometime." At first, Dina tried to avoid her. She would give short answers and walk away quickly. But Mrs. Patterson was persistent. She would show up at the shop with fresh cookies. She would ask Joe about Dina, trying to learn more about her mysterious new neighbor. At first, Dina tried to avoid her. She would give short answers and walk away quickly. But Mrs. Patterson was persistent. She would show up at the shop with fresh cookies. She would ask Joe about Dina, trying to learn more about her mysterious new neighbor. One evening, Dina was sitting on the small balcony outside her apartment, drinking tea and watching the sunset. She heard a voice from below. "Beautiful evening, isn't it?" Mrs. Patterson was in her garden, watering her flowers. "Yes, it is," Dina said. "You know, I've lived in this house for 50 years. I've seen a lot of people come and go in Millbrook, but I can always tell the ones who are running from something." Dina tensed. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Patterson looked up at her. Her eyes were kind. "I mean that you remind me of my son. He came back from the war 20 years ago. He was different, quiet, scared, always looking over his shoulder. He didn't want to talk about what happened. He just wanted to forget." "What happened to him?" Dina asked quietly. "He struggled for a long time. He didn't want help. He pushed everyone away. But eventually, he found a therapist who helped him. And slowly, very slowly, he healed. He's happy now. He lives in Seattle with his wife and children." Mrs. Patterson smiled. "What I'm trying to say, dear, is that running away doesn't work. Whatever you're running from, it comes with you. The only way to really escape is to face it, deal with it, and let people help you. Dina felt tears in her eyes. I don't know if I can. You don't have to know right now. Just don't shut everyone out. Let people in, even a little bit. You might be surprised. After that conversation, Dina started being nicer to Mrs. Patterson. She would stop and talk for a few minutes in the morning. She accepted cookies and even went to dinner at Mrs. Patterson's house once. The old woman told stories about the town, about her life, about her family. She didn't ask Dina personal questions. She just talked and let Dina listen. Dina found that she liked listening. It was comforting to hear about normal life, about simple joys and everyday problems. It reminded her that the world was bigger than her pain. As weeks passed, Dina grew closer to Marcus. He was at the shop every day after his classes. He was always cheerful, always curious, always eager to learn. He talked a lot. He talked about his classes, his dreams of becoming an engineer, his family. His mother worked as a nurse in the next town. His father had left when Marcus was young. His grandmother had raised him, teaching him to be kind and work hard. She passed away last year, Marcus said one day while they were working on a truck together. Cancer. It was really hard. She was the most important person in my life. I'm sorry, Dina said. Thanks. You know, working here helps. Joe is kind of like a grandfather to me now. And you? He paused. You remind me of my grandmother in some ways. You're quiet, but when you talk, it's always something important. And you're really good at what you do. You don't show off, you just work hard and do things right. Dina didn't know what to say. Nobody had compared her to someone's grandmother before. Can I ask you something? Marcus said. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Okay. What made you leave your old job? Joe mentioned you worked in mine rescue. That sounds like important work. Why did you give it up? Dina's hands froze on the wrench she was holding. She hadn't talked about this with anyone. But Marcus was looking at her with such genuine curiosity and care that she found herself wanting to explain. There was an accident, she said slowly. A bad one. People died. People I was supposed to save. Marcus was quiet for a moment. That must have been terrible. It was. I couldn't do the job anymore after that. I couldn't go into mines. I couldn't face the darkness. Do you miss it? The work, I mean? Dina thought about it. Sometimes. I miss the feeling of saving someone, of making a difference. I miss my team. But mostly, I just miss who I was before it happened. I was confident. I wasn't afraid. Now I'm afraid of everything. You don't seem afraid to me, Marcus said. You came to a new town alone. You started a new job. You're building a new life. That takes courage. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like running away. Maybe it's both, Marcus said wisely. Maybe you had to run away from the pain before you could run towards something better. And now you're here, and you're not running anymore. You're staying. You're working. You're living. Dina looked at this young man who somehow understood things that she hadn't understood herself. When did you become so wise? Marcus grinned. My grandmother. She used to say that pain either makes you bitter or better. You get to choose. I think you're choosing better. That night, Dina thought about what Marcus had said. Was she choosing better? She didn't feel like she was choosing anything. She felt like she was just surviving day by day. But maybe survival was enough for now. One afternoon, Dina was working on a car when a woman came into the shop. She was about Dina's age with short black hair and kind eyes. She wore a doctor's coat with a name tag, Dr. Sarah Williams. Dina's heart stopped. Sarah, the same name as her dead friend. Hi, the woman said. My car is making a weird noise. Can you take a look? Dina forced herself to breathe normally. This wasn't her Sarah. This was just someone with the same name. Sure. What kind of noise? Dr. Williams described the sound. Dina drove the car around the block and quickly identified the problem. Worn brake pads. She explained this to the doctor. How long will it take to fix? Dr. Williams asked. About an hour. You can wait here or come back later. I'll wait. I don't have any appointments until this afternoon. Dr. Williams sat in the small waiting area while Dina worked. Dina tried to focus on the job, but she was very aware of the woman's presence. She kept thinking about her Sarah. They had been so different. Her Sarah had been tall and blonde, always joking, always loud. This Sarah seemed quiet and thoughtful. When Dina finished, Dr. Williams paid and thanked her. You're new in town, aren't you? I'm the town doctor. If you ever need anything, my office is just down the street. Thank you, Dina said. What's your name? I like to know everyone in town. Dina. Dina Mercer. Dr. Williams smiled. Nice to meet you, Dina. I'm Sarah, but everyone just calls me Dr. Williams. Welcome to Millbrook. After she left, Dina stood in the shop, her hands shaking. Hearing that name had brought everything back. She could see her Sarah's face, hear her voice, feel the guilt crushing her chest. You okay? Marcus asked. He had noticed her distress. I'm fine, Dina lied. But that night, the nightmare came back worse than ever. She dreamed she was in the mine again. The collapse was happening. She could hear Sarah calling her name. Dina! Help me! Dina! But Dina couldn't move. She was frozen, watching Sarah disappear under the rocks. She woke up screaming. She sat up in bed, gasping for air, her heart racing. The panic attack hit her like a wave. She couldn't breathe. The room was too small. The walls were closing in. She ran to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. She sat on the bathroom floor and counted her breaths like she had learned to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. In and out. Slowly. Slowly. After 20 minutes, the panic subsided. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes red. She looked like a ghost. She couldn't keep living like this. The next day, Dr. Williams came back to the shop. But this time, she didn't have car problems. Hi, Dina, she said. I wanted to talk to you. Do you have a minute? Dina wiped her hands on a rag. Sure. What's wrong with your car? Nothing. I wanted to talk to you. Can we go somewhere private? They went to the small office. Dr. Williams closed the door and looked at Dina seriously. I'm not just here as a customer, she said. I'm here as a doctor. Mrs. Patterson came to see me this morning. She's worried about you. She says she hears you having nightmares. She says sometimes you scream in your sleep. Dina felt her face go red with embarrassment and anger. Mrs. Patterson should mind her own business. She cares about you. She's worried, and frankly, so am I. I saw your face yesterday when I told you my name. You looked like you'd seen a ghost, and today you look exhausted. When was the last time you slept a full night? Dina didn't answer. Dr. Williams continued gently. I think you have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's common in people who have experienced severe trauma. The nightmares, the panic attacks, the insomnia, these are all symptoms. I don't need a doctor, Dina said. I think you do. And I want to help. I can't prescribe therapy. We don't have a therapist in Millbrook. But there's a good one in the next town, about 30 minutes away. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Martinez. She specializes in trauma. I can give you her number. I don't need therapy. Why not? Dr. Williams asked. Are you afraid it won't work? Or are you afraid it will? Dina stared at her. What's that supposed to mean? Sometimes people hold on to their pain because letting go feels like betraying the people they lost. If you heal, If you move on, if you're happy again, does that mean you didn't care enough? Does that mean you've forgotten them? Dr. Williams spoke softly. But that's not true. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live with the loss. It means honoring the people you lost by living a full life. Dina felt tears running down her face. She didn't try to stop them. I'll give you Dr. Martinez's number, Dr. Williams said. You don't have to call her right away. Just keep it. When you're ready, call her, okay? Dina took the card with the therapist's number. She put it in her pocket and didn't look at it, but she didn't throw it away either. Winter came to Millbrook. The trees lost their leaves. The air turned cold. Snow began to fall, covering everything in white. Dina had been in Millbrook for 4 months now. She had settled into a routine. Wake up, work at the shop, have dinner at Tom's diner or sometimes at Mrs. Patterson's house. Go home, read or watch TV, sleep or try to sleep. The work kept her busy. Winter was actually a busy time for the shop. People needed help with their cars in the snow. Joe taught Dina how to handle winter repairs. Frozen engines, dead batteries, damaged from accidents on icy roads. The town prepared for Christmas. Lights went up on all the buildings. A big Christmas tree appeared in the town square. People decorated their houses and shops. Mrs. Chen's grocery store played Christmas music all day. Tom's diner served special holiday meals. Everyone was excited. But Dina felt empty. The holidays reminded her of the past, of celebrating with her rescue team, of Sarah's laugh, of better times. Are you going home for Christmas? Marcus asked her one day. I don't have a home to go to, Dina said. It was the truth. She had sold her apartment, she had no family, her parents had died years ago, and she had no siblings. Her only family had been her rescue team. Then you should spend Christmas here, Marcus said. My mom and I always have a big Christmas dinner. You should come. I don't want to intrude. You wouldn't be intruding. My mom loves having people over. Please come. Dina found herself agreeing. She didn't want to spend Christmas alone in her small apartment.
Christmas Day was sunny and cold. Dinah dressed in her best clothes, which weren't very fancy, just clean jeans and a nice sweater, and drove to Marcus's house. Marcus lived with his mother in a small house on the edge of town. His mother, Gloria, was a warm, friendly woman who hugged Dina as soon as she walked in the door. Welcome. Marcus has told me so much about you. Come in. Come in. The house smelled like turkey and pie. There were decorations everywhere. Christmas music played softly. It was warm and cozy and felt like home. Joe was there too, along with a few other people from town. Mrs. Patterson, Tom from the diner, the Chen family. They were all chatting and laughing. Dina, Mrs. Patterson said when she saw her, I'm so glad you came. Here, let me introduce you to everyone.
Dina spent the evening eating good food, listening to stories, and even laughing a few times. She felt like she was part of something, a community, a family of sorts. These people barely knew her, but they had welcomed her anyway. As the evening wound down, Gloria took Dina aside. Marcus told me a little about your past, she said, about what you went through. I won't pretend to understand how hard that must have been, but I want you to know that you're not alone anymore. You have people here who care about you. Dina felt overwhelmed. I don't deserve this kindness. Everyone deserves kindness, Gloria said firmly, especially people who are hurting. That night, Dina went home feeling lighter than she had in a long time. The nightmares still came, but they were a little less frequent now. The pain was still there, but it was a little less sharp. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe she was healing slowly. It was January when Dina finally looked at the card Dr. Williams had given her. She had carried it in her pocket every day for 2 months. Sometimes she would take it out and look at the number, but she never called. But on a cold January night, after another nightmare, after another sleepless night, she finally picked up her phone and dialed the number. A woman's voice answered. Dr. Martinez's office. This is Lisa speaking. Hi, I was given this number. I think I need to talk to someone. Of course. Let me get you scheduled. What's your name? Dina Mercer. She made an appointment for the following week. Then she sat on her bed, her phone in her hand, wondering what she had just done. The therapy office was in the next town, in a small professional building. The waiting room was quiet and painted in calming colors. Dina sat there, her heart pounding, wanting to leave. But then the door opened and a woman came out. She was about 50, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Dina, I'm Dr. Martinez. Come on in. The therapy room was comfortable. There was a couch, some chairs, a desk. Dr. Martinez sat in a chair and invited Dina to sit wherever she felt comfortable. So, Dr. Martinez said, why don't you tell me what brought you here? And Dina started talking. Slowly at first, then faster. She told Dr. Martinez about the mine, about the rescue, about the collapse. She told her about Sarah and her team. She told her about the guilt, the nightmares, the panic attacks. She talked for the full hour, and when the session ended, she felt exhausted but also lighter, like she had put down a heavy weight. You've been carrying this alone for a long time, Dr. Martinez said. That's incredibly hard. But you don't have to carry it alone anymore. We'll work through this together. Dina started seeing Dr. Martinez every week. The therapy was hard. Sometimes it made things worse before they got better. Dr. Martinez made her talk about things she didn't want to talk about, remember things she wanted to forget. But slowly, very slowly, it helped. Dr. Martinez taught her coping strategies for the panic attacks. She helped Dina understand that what happened wasn't her fault, that she had done everything she could. She helped Dina see that surviving didn't mean she didn't care about the people who died. Survivor's guilt is real, Dr. Martinez explained. You feel guilty because you lived and they didn't, but their deaths weren't your fault. You didn't cause the collapse. You tried to save them. But I ran, Dina said. I saved myself instead of Sarah. If you had stayed, you would have died too. You couldn't have saved her. The collapse was too fast, too severe. Tom pulled you away because he knew that. He saved your life. Dying alongside them wouldn't have honored them. Living, healing, continuing to be a good person, that honors them. These words didn't heal Dina immediately, but over time, over many sessions, they started to sink in. She started to believe them, just a little bit.
I'm not going to live forever, Joe said. I'm 73. I want to retire in a few years. I was thinking, maybe you and Marcus could take over the shop. Partnership. You handle the complex repairs, he handles the business side. What do you think? Dina was stunned. You want to give us your shop? Not give. Sell. But at a fair price, and I'd let you pay over time. I've built this business for 45 years. I want it to continue after I'm gone, and I can't think of better people to run it than you two. Dina didn't know what to say. A future. An actual future. She hadn't thought about the future in so long. She had just been focused on surviving each day. I'll think about it, she said. That afternoon, she talked to Marcus about it. His eyes went wide. Really? Joe wants us to run the shop? That's amazing. We have to do it, Dina. I don't know. That's a big commitment. So? You're not planning to leave, are you? Dina realized she wasn't. Somewhere along the way, without meaning to, she had put down roots in Millbrook. This was her home now. No, she said. I'm not planning to leave. Then let's do it. This is our chance to build something real. Dina smiled. Marcus's enthusiasm was contagious. Okay, let's do it. They talked to Joe the next day and accepted his offer. Joe was thrilled. They started making plans. They would officially take over the shop in 2 years after Marcus graduated from college. In the meantime, they would learn everything they could from Joe. That evening, Dina stood on her balcony and looked out at the town. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. She felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real hope for the future. She thought about Sarah, about her whole team. She knew they would want her to be happy. They would want her to live. I'm trying, she whispered to the sky. I'm really trying. It was a beautiful Saturday in May. Dina was at the shop working on a truck. Marcus was there too, studying for his final exams. Joe had taken the day off to visit his daughter in the city. Around noon, they heard sirens. Lots of sirens. Ambulances, fire trucks, police cars. They all seemed to be heading to the edge of town. What's going on? Marcus said, looking out the window. Mrs. Chen came running into the shop. She looked panicked. There's been an accident at the old train tunnel. Part of it collapsed. Dina felt her blood go cold. A collapse. A tunnel collapse. They're doing restoration work on the old railway tunnel, Mrs. Chen continued. Some company wants to reopen the train line. There were workers inside when it collapsed. They say at least 10 or 12 people are trapped. Marcus grabbed his jacket. We should go see if we can help. No, Dina said sharply. It's too dangerous. But people are trapped. The rescue teams will handle it. We should stay here. But even as she said it, Dina felt guilt eating at her. People were trapped. People needed help. And she was standing here, doing nothing. Her phone rang. It was Gloria, Marcus's mother. Marcus answered, and his face went pale. What? He said. Are you sure? Okay, I'm coming right now. He hung up and looked at Dina. My mom's boyfriend, James, was working at the tunnel today. He's one of the people trapped inside. Dina felt sick. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I have to go there. I have to see what's happening. I'll come with you, Dina heard herself say. They drove to the edge of town where the old railway tunnel was located. The scene was chaos, just like that day 3 years ago. Fire trucks, ambulances, police cars everywhere, emergency workers running around, family members crying, waiting for news. Marcus found his mother. Gloria was crying. They don't know if he's alive. They don't know anything. The tunnel is completely blocked. Dina looked at the tunnel entrance. It was sealed with rocks and debris, just like the Blue Ridge mine had been. She felt panic rising in her chest. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. Dina? Marcus was looking at her with concern. Are you okay? I need a minute. She walked away from the crowd. She leaned against a tree and tried to calm down. The panic attack was coming. She could feel it. Her heart was racing. Her vision was getting dark. Her hands were shaking. She closed her eyes and counted her breaths. Dr. Martinez had taught her this. 1, 2, 3, 4. In and out. In and out. Slowly, the panic subsided. She opened her eyes. A man in a uniform was talking to the crowd. He was from the county rescue service. We've made contact with the trapped workers. They're alive, all 12 of them, but the tunnel is unstable. We can't send anyone in until we stabilize it. We've called for specialized equipment and experts. They'll be here in 4 to 5 hours. 4 to 5 hours. Dina knew what that meant. She had been in enough collapses to know. The tunnel could collapse further at any moment. The workers could run out of air. There might be injuries that needed immediate attention. 4 to 5 hours might be too long. She walked back to Marcus and Gloria. Which section of the tunnel collapsed? The north section, Gloria said. About half a mile in. They were doing repair work on the old support structures when the earthquake hit. Earthquake? Dina asked. A small one, just a tremor, but it was enough to make the old tunnel collapse. Dina's mind was working now, thinking like a rescue worker again. How old is this tunnel? Over 100 years old, built in the 1920s. Dina thought about the structure of old tunnels. She thought about how they were built, where the weak points would be, how a collapse would likely happen. Is there a map of the tunnel? She asked. The rescue coordinator overheard her. Who are you?
Dina Mercer. I used to work in mine rescue. I need to see a map of the tunnel. The coordinator looked skeptical. We have professionals handling this. Your professionals won't be here for hours. I'm here now. Please just let me see the map. The coordinator hesitated, then showed her the map. Dina studied it carefully. The tunnel was long and had several side passages. The collapse had happened in the main passage, but there were other ways to reach that section. There, she said, pointing to the map. This old ventilation shaft. It's blocked, but if we could clear it, we could reach the trapped workers from another direction. That shaft is too small and too dangerous, the coordinator said. We're not sending anyone in there. I'm not asking you to, Dina said. I'm telling you I'll go. Everyone stared at Dina. Marcus grabbed her arm. Dina, no. You can't. You told me about your past, about what happened. You can't go into a tunnel. I have to, Dina said. Her voice was calm, but inside she was terrified. I'm the only one here with experience. The rescue team won't arrive for hours. Those workers don't have hours. But you haven't done this work in 3 years. And you have PTSD. What if you have a panic attack in there? Then I have a panic attack. But I have to try. I can't just stand here and watch people die again. Gloria looked at Dina. James is in there, if you think you can help. The rescue coordinator was on his radio, talking to his supervisors. Finally, he came back to Dina. My boss says you can try, but you go at your own risk. We can't send official personnel with you. If anything happens, you're on your own. I understand, Dina said. We have some basic rescue equipment. I'll get it for you. Wait, Marcus said. I'm coming with you. No, Dina said firmly. Absolutely not. You have no training, no experience. You would just be in danger. You need someone with you. For safety. To help if something goes wrong. I'm young and strong. I can carry equipment. Please, Dina. Let me help. Dina wanted to say no, but she knew Marcus was right. Going in alone was even more dangerous, and she didn't have time to argue. Okay, but you do exactly what I say when I say it. Understood? Understood. The rescue coordinator gave them equipment, helmets with lights, ropes, first aid supplies, a radio. Dina put on the helmet and felt the weight of it, so familiar and yet so foreign after 3 years. Her hands were shaking. Fear was coursing through her body. Every instinct told her to run away, to not do this. She thought about Dr. Martinez, about the work they had done, about all the progress she had made. Was she about to throw it all away? But then she looked at Gloria's face, at all the other family members waiting for news. She thought about the 12 workers trapped in the dark, wondering if anyone would come for them. She thought about Sarah, about how Sarah had faced danger without hesitation, always putting others first. Let's go, Dina said. They walked to the old ventilation shaft. It was on the side of the mountain, covered with boards and warning signs. The rescue coordinator had sent 2 firefighters to remove the boards. The entrance was narrow and dark. Dina shone her light inside. She could see a rough tunnel sloping down into the earth. The walls were old stone and brick, crumbling in places. It looked incredibly unstable. Last chance to change your mind, the coordinator said. Dina took a deep breath. I'm not changing my mind. She stepped into the tunnel. Marcus followed close behind her. The darkness swallowed them immediately. The ventilation shaft was narrow and steep. Dina and Marcus had to move slowly, carefully. Dina went first, testing each step before putting her weight on it. The air was cold and damp. Water dripped from the ceiling. Dina's heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking so much she had to clench them into fists. But she kept moving forward, one step at a time. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked from behind her. "I'm fine," Dina lied. They descended for what felt like forever. The shaft went down at a steep angle, twisting and turning. Sometimes they had to crawl. Sometimes the passage was so narrow they had to turn sideways to fit through. Dina tried not to think about the tons of rock and earth above them. Tried not to think about how easily the shaft could collapse, trapping them just like the workers they were trying to save. After 20 minutes, they reached a small chamber. It was a junction where the ventilation shaft met the main tunnel system. Dina checked the map again with her headlamp. "We need to go left," she said. "That should take us toward where the collapse happened." They entered the main tunnel. It was bigger than the shaft, tall enough to stand in. But it was also more damaged. Parts of the ceiling had fallen. The walls were cracked. The old wooden support beams were rotting and broken. "This place is falling apart," Marcus whispered. "I know. We need to be very careful. No loud noises, no sudden movements. The whole thing is unstable." They moved forward slowly. Dina scanned the tunnel constantly with her light, looking for danger signs. She checked the walls for cracks. She listened for any sounds of movement or stress in the structure. Her training was coming back to her. All those years of experience. She knew what to look for, what to avoid. Her body remembered even if her mind was full of fear. After 10 more minutes, they heard voices ahead. "Hello," Dina called out. "Can you hear us?" "Yes. Who's there?" A man's voice came from somewhere ahead. "My name is Dina. I'm here to help. How many of you are there?" 12. Are you with the rescue team?" "Sort of. We came through a side passage. The main entrance is blocked. Can you see our lights?" "No. There's debris blocking the way. We can hear you, but we can't see you." Dina moved closer. She could see now that there was a pile of rocks and broken beams blocking the tunnel ahead. It wasn't as big as the main collapse, but it was still substantial. "We're going to try to clear this," Dina said. "It might take some time." "Is everyone okay? Any injuries?" 3 people are hurt. Nothing life-threatening, but they need medical attention. And we're running out of air. It's getting hard to breathe." Dina's heart sank. Running out of air. That was bad. Very bad. She turned to Marcus. "We need to clear this debris and get them out as fast as possible. But we have to be careful. If we're not careful, we'll cause another collapse." "Tell me what to do," Marcus said. Dina started planning. She studied the debris pile carefully, looking for the safest way to remove the rocks. She had to think like a structural engineer now, understanding how each piece supported the others. "We'll start here," she said, pointing to a spot on the left side. "We remove these smaller rocks first." Slowly, one at a time, they started working. It was hard, physical labor. The rocks were heavy. They had to lift them, carry them back down the tunnel, then return for more. Dina's back ached. Her hands were scraped and bleeding, but she kept working. On the other side of the debris, the trapped workers helped. They pushed rocks from their side, while Dina and Marcus pulled from theirs. Slowly, slowly, a gap began to form. As they worked, the darkness pressed in on Dina. The enclosed space. The sense of danger. It was all too familiar. Too much like that day 3 years ago. She felt the panic starting to rise. Her breathing became faster. Her vision started to narrow. "Dina?" Marcus noticed. "You don't look good." "I'm fine," she said. But she wasn't fine. The panic attack was coming. She could feel it. She stopped working and leaned against the wall. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. In and out. In and out. But the breathing exercises weren't working this time. The panic was too strong. The memories were too vivid. She was back in the Blue Ridge mine. She could smell the coal dust. She could hear Sarah screaming her name. "Dina!" Marcus grabbed her shoulders. "Look at me! Look at me!" Dina opened her eyes. She saw Marcus's worried face. I can't breathe." "Yes, you can. Listen to my voice. Breathe with me. In, out, in, out." Marcus held her hands and breathed with her. Slowly, very slowly, the panic started to subside. Dina's vision cleared. Her heart stopped racing quite so fast. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize. You're doing something incredibly brave. It's okay to be scared." From the other side of the debris, one of the trapped workers called out, "Hey! Is everything okay out there?" "We're fine," Marcus called back. "Just taking a break." Dina wiped her eyes. She looked at the debris pile. They had cleared about a third of it. They still had a long way to go. "I can't do this," she said. "I thought I could, but I can't. I'm too scared. I'm going to get us all killed." "No, you're not," Marcus said firmly. "You know what you're doing. You're the only one who can do this. Those people in there are counting on you. But what if I fail again? What if I can't save them?" "You didn't fail before," Marcus said. "What happened to your team wasn't your fault. It was just a terrible accident. But right now, right here, you have a chance to save 12 people. You can do this, Dina. I believe in you." Dina looked at this young man who had become such a good friend. She thought about how much she had come to care about him, about Gloria, about everyone in Millbrook. She thought about Joe trusting her with his shop, about Mrs. Patterson's kindness, about Dr. Martinez helping her heal. These people believed in her. Maybe it was time to believe in herself. "Okay," she said. "Let's keep going." They worked for another hour. The gap in the debris pile grew larger. Finally, it was big enough for a person to fit through. "We've done it," Marcus said. Dina shone her light through the gap. She could see faces on the other side. Dirty, tired, scared faces. 12 workers in hard hats sitting against the wall of the tunnel. "Hello," Dina said. "I'm Dina. We're going to get you out of here." The workers started to cheer, but Dina held up her hand. "Quiet! The tunnel is very unstable. We need to move carefully and quietly. Understand?" They all nodded. Dina crawled through the gap. Marcus followed her. On the other side, she could see the situation more clearly. 3 of the workers were injured. One had a broken leg, one had a bad cut on his head, and one seemed to have injured his ribs. The others were mostly just scared and exhausted. "Who's in charge here?" Dina asked. A young woman raised her hand. She looked like she was in her early 30s, with short brown hair and intelligent eyes. "I am. I'm Rachel, the site engineer. Thank you for coming. We thought no one would reach us in time. The official rescue team is coming, but they won't be here for a few more hours. We're going to get you out through the ventilation shaft, but we need to move fast. Can the injured people walk?" "I can," said the man with the head injury. "I can't," said the man with the broken leg. His name was James, Marcus's mom's boyfriend. "My leg is bad." Dina examined the leg. It was definitely broken. James couldn't walk on it. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. The people who can walk go first. Marcus will guide you through the ventilation shaft. It's narrow and steep, but you can make it. Once you're out, send some of the rescue workers back with a stretcher for the injured. Rachel, you go last. You and I will stay with the injured until help comes." "I'm not leaving my crew," Rachel said. "Yes, you are. You're the engineer. You know this tunnel better than anyone. If something goes wrong and we need to find another way out, I'll need your knowledge. So you stay until the end." "Agreed?" Rachel hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. They started the evacuation. One by one, the able-bodied workers crawled through the gap in the debris. Marcus led them back toward the ventilation shaft. Dina stayed with the 3 injured workers and Rachel. As she waited, Dina felt strangely calm. The panic was gone. She was in rescue mode now, focused entirely on the task at hand. This is what she was good at. This is what she was meant to do. "You've done this before, haven't you?" Rachel said. "You're very professional." "I used to do mine rescue," Dina said. "A long time ago." "Why did you stop?" Dina was quiet for a moment. "There was an accident. People died. I couldn't handle it anymore." "But you came back." "Even though you were scared. That takes real courage." "Or real stupidity," Dina said with a small smile. They heard a sound, a deep, ominous creaking sound. Dina's blood ran cold. She knew that sound. The tunnel was shifting. "We need to move." "Now," she said. But before they could do anything, there was a loud crack. Part of the ceiling near the main collapse gave way. More rocks fell, blocking the passage even more. And worse, the debris pile they had cleared started to shift. Rocks tumbled down. The gap they had made started to close. "The tunnel is collapsing," Rachel shouted. Dina's mind raced. They couldn't go back through the gap. It was too dangerous now, and it was rapidly closing. They couldn't go forward. That way was completely blocked by the main collapse. They were trapped. The panic tried to come back, but Dina pushed it down. She couldn't panic now. These people needed her. "Rachel," she said urgently, "the map showed there were other ventilation shafts. Is that right?" "Yes, but they're all sealed. They've been closed for decades." "Where's the nearest one?" Rachel thought for a moment. "About 200 yards that way." She pointed down the tunnel, away from both collapses. "But I don't know if we can get to it. The tunnel might be blocked. We have to try. Help me get James up." They lifted James to his feet. He put his arms around Dina and Rachel's shoulders, hopping on his good leg. The other 2 injured workers could walk slowly. "Stay close together," Dina said. "Watch for any signs of instability." They started moving down the dark tunnel. It was slow going. James was heavy and in pain. The man with the rib injury kept stopping to catch his breath. The man with the head injury was dizzy and had trouble walking straight. Dina's radio crackled. "Dina, are you there? This is Marcus. What happened?" "We heard a loud noise." "There was another collapse," Dina said into the radio. "We can't go back the way we came. We're looking for another ventilation shaft." "Oh God, are you okay? Is everyone okay?"
For now. But we need to find a way out fast. The whole tunnel is unstable. "I'm coming back to help you." "No. Stay there. Get those workers to safety." "That's an order, Marcus." There was a pause. "Okay, but please be careful." They continued down the tunnel. Dina's light showed more damage ahead. Parts of the ceiling had fallen. In some places, they had to climb over debris. James cried out in pain every time they had to lift him over an obstacle. "I'm sorry," Dina said to him. "I know it hurts. But we have to keep moving." "It's okay," James said through gritted teeth. "I trust you." After what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, they saw it. A shaft in the ceiling. It was sealed with metal grating, but they could see light coming through the gaps. "That's it," Rachel said. "That's the ventilation shaft." Dina looked up at the grating. It was about 10 feet above them, out of reach, and it was secured with heavy bolts that had rusted in place over the decades. "We need to get that grating off," Dina said. "Any ideas?" Rachel examined the shaft. "If we had something to stand on, someone could reach the bolts. And if we had tools, we could break the rust and unscrew them." Dina looked around. There were broken pieces of wood and metal from the old tunnel infrastructure. "We can build something." "Come on." They worked together, stacking pieces of debris to create a makeshift platform. It was dangerous and unstable, but it was their only option. Dina climbed up onto the platform. She was just tall enough to reach the grating. She pulled out a wrench from her tool belt. She had grabbed basic tools before entering the tunnel. The bolts were badly rusted. Dina strained to turn them. Her hands were already sore and bleeding. The wrench kept slipping, but slowly, painfully, the first bolt started to turn. "Come on," she muttered. "Come on." The bolt came free. 1 down, 3 to go. She worked on the second bolt. This one was even harder. The rust was thick. Dina put all her strength into it. Her muscles screamed in protest. But finally, it turned. 2 down. As she reached for the third bolt, the platform shifted beneath her feet. She lost her balance and fell, landing hard on the tunnel floor. "Dina!" everyone shouted. Dina sat up, wincing. Her ankle hurt, but it wasn't broken. "I'm okay. Let me try again." She climbed back up. Her ankle throbbed, but she ignored it. She worked on the third bolt. This time, when she put pressure on it, the bolt head snapped off. The rust had made the metal brittle. "Damn it," Dina said. "Can you break the grating anyway?" Rachel asked. "With 3 bolts gone, maybe it's weak enough." Dina pushed at the grating. It bent, but didn't break. She pushed harder. The rusted metal groaned. She kicked at it with her good leg. The grating gave way, falling open with a screech of metal. "Yes," Dina said.
The ventilation shaft was open. They could escape.
Her injured ankle screamed with pain. Her muscles burned, but she kept climbing. She thought about Marcus waiting at the surface. She thought about Gloria, hoping to see James alive. She thought about all the people who were counting on her. She thought about Sarah. "I'm not going to fail this time," she whispered. "I promise." Finally, she reached the top. She pulled herself out of the shaft and collapsed on the ground, breathing hard. She was on the mountainside, surrounded by trees. She could see the rescue operation in the distance. She called down the shaft. "I made it!" "I'm lowering the rope now." She tied one end of the rope to a tree and lowered the other end down the shaft. "Rachel, you come up first." Rachel climbed up, using the rope for support. She made it to the top quickly. She was younger and uninjured. Next came the man with the head injury, then the man with the rib injury. They were slower and needed more help, but they made it. Finally, it was James's turn. With his broken leg, he couldn't climb. Dina and Rachel tied the rope under his arms and pulled, while he used his good leg and his arms to help himself up the shaft. It was exhausting work. Dina's hands were raw from the rope. Her injured ankle could barely support her weight, but she pulled with everything she had. "Come on, James," she called down. "You're almost there." Slowly, inch by inch, James came up the shaft. When he finally reached the top, Dina and Rachel grabbed his arms and hauled him out. They had done it. All 5 of them had escaped. Dina used her radio. "This is Dina. We're out. We're on the mountainside about 200 yards west of the ventilation shaft entrance. We need medical help." "Copy that," came the response. "Sending rescue workers to your location now." Within minutes, rescue workers arrived. They had stretchers for the injured. They checked everyone over. They wrapped Dina's ankle and bandaged her hands. Marcus came running up the mountain. When he saw Dina, he ran to her and hugged her tight. "You did it. You saved them all." Gloria was right behind him. When she saw James, she burst into tears and threw her arms around him. "You're alive. Oh God, you're alive." Dina watched them, feeling a warmth in her chest. She had saved them. All of them. No one had died. She had done it. The rescue was the top story on the local news. Reporters came to Millbrook to interview Dina. She refused most of them. She didn't want to be famous. She just wanted to go back to her quiet life. But the town wouldn't let her be quiet about it. They threw a celebration at the town hall. Everyone came. All the people whose cars she had fixed, all her friends, even people she had never met before. The mayor gave a speech. Dina Mercer came to our town a stranger. She was quiet, kept to herself. But when people needed help, she didn't hesitate. She risked her life to save 12 workers. She's a hero. Everyone applauded. Dina felt embarrassed. She wasn't a hero. She had just done what needed to be done. But when she looked around the room, she saw faces she knew. Joe, looking at her with pride. Marcus and Gloria smiling. Mrs. Patterson wiping tears from her eyes. Dr. Williams nodding with approval. All the workers she had saved, alive and healthy. James standing with Gloria, his leg in a cast, but otherwise fine. Maybe she wasn't a hero. But she had made a difference. She had saved lives. And for the first time since the Blue Ridge mine accident, the guilt she carried felt a little lighter. After the celebration, Dr. Martinez called her. I saw the news. How are you doing? I'm okay, Dina said. Better than okay, actually. You went into a collapsed tunnel. That must have triggered a lot of trauma. It did. I had a panic attack while I was in there, but I got through it. I did what I needed to do. That's huge, Dina. You faced your worst fear and you survived it. You saved lives. Do you understand what that means? What? It means you're healing. Real healing. Not just managing the pain, but actually overcoming it. I'm so proud of you. Dina felt tears in her eyes. I keep thinking about Sarah, about my old team. I saved those workers, but I couldn't save Sarah. It doesn't seem fair. Life isn't fair, Dr. Martinez said gently. You couldn't control what happened 3 years ago. But you could control what happened last week. You chose to be brave. You chose to help. That's what matters. I think Sarah would be proud of me, Dina said quietly. I think so too. That night, Dina dreamed about the mine again, but this time, the dream was different. She was in the Blue Ridge mine, but the collapse wasn't happening. She was just walking through the tunnel with her team. Sarah was there, laughing at something Tom said. Sarah turned to Dina and smiled. You did good, Dina. You finally did good. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, Dina said. I know, but you saved others. That's what matters. That's what we always tried to do. Save people. You kept that alive. I'm proud of you. Dina woke up with tears on her face. But they were good tears, healing tears.
In the weeks after the rescue, Dina's life changed. The workers she had saved stayed in touch with her. Rachel, the site engineer, became a good friend. James and Gloria got married, and Dina was invited to the wedding. The rescue service asked if she would consider coming back to work. They needed experienced people like her. The pay would be good. She would be saving lives again. Dina thought about it seriously. A part of her missed the work, missed the adrenaline, the challenge, the feeling of making a real difference. But another part of her loved her life in Millbrook. She loved working at the shop with Joe and Marcus. She loved the quiet routine, the friendly neighbors, the sense of community. She loved her small apartment and Mrs. Patterson's cookies and dinners at Tom's Diner. She talked to Dr. Martinez about it. What do you think I should do? What do you want to do? Dr. Martinez asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to go back to rescue work, prove to myself that I can do it again. But part of me is afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid that I'll fail again. Afraid that someone will die and it will be my fault. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Dina, listen to me carefully. What happened at the Blue Ridge mine wasn't your fault. What happened at the railway tunnel proved that. You're a skilled rescue worker. You can save lives. But you can't save everyone. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, people die. That's not failure. That's just reality. So what should I do? Only you can answer that. But I'll say this. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You've already proven you're brave. You've proven you're capable. Now you get to choose the life you want, not the life you think you should have. Dina thought about it for a long time. She thought about what would make her happy, what would give her life meaning. Finally, she made her decision. She called the rescue service. Thank you for the offer, but I'm going to decline. I have a good life here. I'm needed here. This is where I want to be. Instead, she made a different offer. But I would be willing to volunteer as a consultant. If there's ever an emergency in this area, call me. I'll help if I can. Just don't ask me to make it my full-time job. The rescue service agreed. It was a good compromise. Dina went back to work at the shop. She and Marcus continued learning from Joe. They were getting better every day. The town continued to bring their vehicles for repair. Business was good. One evening, Dina was closing up the shop when Rachel stopped by. Hey Dina, got a minute? Sure, what's up? I wanted to thank you again for saving us. I owe you my life. You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. And I want to give you something. Rachel handed her an envelope. Dina opened it. Inside was a check for $10,000. What is this? Dina asked. The company that hired us for the tunnel restoration work felt terrible about the accident. They gave each of the workers compensation. We all agreed to pool some of our money to thank you. It's not much compared to what you did, but we wanted you to have it. Dina tried to hand the check back. I can't accept this. I didn't do it for money. We know. But please take it anyway. Use it for something good. Your shop, your therapy, whatever you need. Please. Dina looked at the check. $10,000. It was more money than she had expected. With this, she and Marcus could make a down payment on Joe's shop. They could really own it, build a future. Thank you, she said quietly. This means a lot. Rachel hugged her. No, thank you. For everything. A year passed. It was spring again in Millbrook. The trees were green, flowers were blooming, and life was good. Dina was now co-owner of Joe's Auto Repair. Joe had officially retired, though he still came by the shop a few times a week to help out and chat. Marcus had graduated from college with his engineering degree. Together, they were running a successful business. They had even expanded. They hired 2 more mechanics and were thinking about opening a second location in the next town. Dina never imagined she would be a business owner, but here she was. Her apartment above the shop was now truly her home. She had decorated it with photos of Millbrook, of her friends, of the life she had built. Mrs. Patterson had given her a plant that now sat on her windowsill. Tom had given her a painting of the town that hung on her wall. The nightmares still came sometimes, but they were rare now, maybe once a month. And when they came, she knew how to handle them. She would get up, make tea, call Dr. Martinez if needed, and remind herself that she was safe.
The panic attacks were almost gone. She could go into basements and underground parking garages without fear. She was healing, really healing. She still went to therapy, but now it was once a month instead of once a week. Dr. Martinez said she was one of the most remarkable cases of recovery she had ever seen. You did the work, Dr. Martinez told her. You faced your trauma, processed it, and moved forward. Not many people can do that. Dina had also started volunteering. Once a month, she gave talks at the community college in the next town. She talked to students studying engineering and emergency services. She told them about mine safety, about rescue techniques, about the importance of mental health. She talked about the Blue Ridge mine accident. It was still hard, but she could do it now without breaking down. She showed them photos of her old team, including Sarah. She honored their memory by sharing their story, by helping others learn from what happened. These people were heroes, she told the students. They died doing what they loved, trying to save others. The best way to honor them is to learn from their sacrifice and make sure we're as safe and prepared as possible. Marcus often came to these talks. Afterward, he told her, "You're really good at this. You should do it more often." "Maybe I will," Dina said. On the anniversary of the railway tunnel rescue, the town held another celebration. The 12 workers came back to Millbrook for the event. They unveiled a small memorial plaque near the tunnel entrance, thanking Dina for her bravery. Dina stood in front of the plaque, reading the words, "In honor of Dina Mercer, who risked her life to save 12 workers. Her courage reminds us that heroes live among us." She felt Marcus's hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah," Dina said. "I'm okay. More than okay." That evening, there was a party at Tom's diner. The whole town came. They ate, drank, laughed, and celebrated. Dinah sat with her friends, Marcus and Gloria, now pregnant with their first child, Joe, Mrs. Patterson, the Chen family, Dr. Williams, Rachel, James, and many others. She looked around the table at all these people who had become her family. A year ago, she had been alone, broken, afraid. Now she was surrounded by love and friendship. "Thank you," she said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. "Thank you all for accepting me, for being patient with me, for believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself." "You're one of us now," Tom said. "Millbrook is your home." "Yes," Dina said, smiling. "Yes, it is." Later that night, Dina stood on her balcony and looked up at the stars. She thought about where she had been and where she was now. She thought about all the pain and all the healing. She thought about Sarah. "I hope you can see me now," she whispered. "I hope you know I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm living the life you would want me to live." The wind blew gently, rustling the leaves. Dina felt at peace. She had come to Millbrook broken and lost. She had found healing and purpose. She had faced her darkest fear and survived. She had saved lives and rebuilt her own life. She was no longer running from her past. She had made peace with it. She would never forget what happened, would never stop missing the people she lost. But she could live with the pain now. It was part of her, but it didn't define her anymore. Dina Mercer was 45 years old. She was a mechanic, a business owner, a friend, and yes, a hero. Not because of one dramatic rescue, but because she had chosen to keep living, keep trying, keep hoping. And that, she realized, was the bravest thing of all. 5 years later, 5 years after the railway tunnel rescue, Millbrook had grown. More people had moved to the quiet town. New businesses had opened. But the heart of the town remained the same. Friendly, peaceful, welcoming. Dina was now 50 years old. Her hair had more gray in it, and she had laugh lines around her eyes. But she looked happier than she had ever been. Joe's Auto Repair, now called Parker and Mercer Auto Repair, was thriving. They had opened 2 more locations in neighboring towns. They had 10 employees now. Marcus handled most of the business side while Dina supervised the mechanical work and trained new employees. Dina had also become certified as a rescue consultant. She worked with the County Rescue Service, helping them train and prepare for emergencies. She had developed new safety protocols based on her experiences. She had saved several more lives over the years by providing expert advice during emergencies. But she had also learned to balance work and life. She took vacations now. She had hobbies. She had learned to paint and had created several pieces that hung in local businesses. She hiked in the mountains on weekends. She volunteered at the library, reading to children. Mrs. Patterson had passed away 2 years ago at the age of 87. It had been peaceful. She had died in her sleep. Dina had cried for days, but she was grateful for the time they had together, for the friendship they had built. Marcus and Gloria now had 3 children. Dina was their honorary aunt. She babysat when they needed a break. She taught the kids about mechanics. The oldest child, a girl named Sarah, was especially interested in engines and machines. "She reminds me of you," Gloria told Dina. "Smart, curious, always taking things apart to see how they work." Dina felt a warmth in her chest every time she spent time with little Sarah. It felt like her old friend's spirit lived on somehow. Dr. Williams, the other Sarah in Dina's life, had become one of her closest friends. They had dinner together once a week, talking about life, health, and the town. Dr. Williams had helped Dina understand that having a friend with the same name as her lost friend wasn't a burden. It was a gift, a reminder that life continues. One spring day, Dina was working in the shop when a young woman came in. She was about 25, with nervous eyes and hesitant movements. She looked like she was carrying a heavy weight. "Can I help you?" Dina asked. "Are you Dina Mercer?" the woman asked. "Yes. I heard about what you did, the tunnel rescue, and about your past, about the accident at the Blue Ridge mine." Quote. The woman's voice broke. "I work in emergency services. 2 months ago, there was a fire. I was supposed to go in and help, but I froze. I couldn't do it. 3 people died. It was my fault." Dina recognized that look in the woman's eyes. She had seen it in her own mirror for years. "What's your name?" Dina asked gently. "Amy." "Amy, come with me. Let's talk." They went to a coffee shop. Dina listened as Amy told her story. It was heartbreaking and familiar. Amy blamed herself. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't work. She was thinking about giving up her career, maybe giving up entirely. "I heard that you went through something similar," Amy said. "That you recovered. How? How did you get past it?" Dina thought for a long moment. "It wasn't easy. It took time, therapy, good friends, and a lot of hard work. And I had to learn something important." "What?" "I had to learn that I'm human, that I can't save everyone, that sometimes, despite our best efforts, bad things happen. And when they do, it's not always our fault. But those people died because I froze. Or maybe they died because the situation was impossible. Maybe there was nothing you could have done even if you had gone in. You don't know. And torturing yourself with what-ifs won't bring them back." Amy started crying. "I don't know how to live with this." "I know. But you can. I did. You can honor the people who died by continuing to be a good emergency responder, by learning from what happened, by getting help and healing, by living a full life." Dina gave Amy Dr. Martinez's number. She also gave her own phone number. "Call me anytime, day or night. I mean it. I know what you're going through. You don't have to go through it alone." Amy looked at the numbers with tears streaming down her face. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "You don't even know me." "Because someone was kind to me when I needed it most. And that kindness saved my life. I'm just passing it on." Over the following months, Dina stayed in touch with Amy. She encouraged her to go to therapy. She shared her own story in detail. She helped Amy understand that healing was possible. Slowly, Amy started to recover. She went back to work part-time. She started sleeping better. She smiled again. One day, Amy called Dina. "I wanted to thank you. You saved my life. Not literally, but you gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that it's possible to survive this." "I'm proud of you," Dina said. You did the hard work. You chose to heal. I want to be like you, Amy said. I want to help others who are going through what we went through. Then do it, Dina said. The world needs more people who understand pain and can help others through it. That conversation gave Dina an idea. She talked to Dr. Martinez about starting a support group for emergency responders who had experienced trauma. Dr. Martinez thought it was a brilliant idea. They started the group a month later. It met twice a month in the town library. At first, only a few people came, but word spread. Soon they had 20 regular members: firefighters, paramedics, police officers, rescue workers, all of them carrying trauma from their work, all of them trying to heal. Dina co-facilitated the group with Dr. Martinez. She shared her story. She listened to others' stories. She created a safe space where these brave people could be vulnerable, could admit their fears and pain without judgment. This is amazing, Dr. Martinez told her. You're doing really important work here, Dina. It feels right, Dina said. Like this is what I'm meant to do. One evening, Dina was closing up the shop when she saw a familiar truck pull up. It was beat up and old, covered with dust. A woman got out, middle-aged, tired-looking, with sad eyes. She looked a lot like Dina had looked 5 years ago. The woman walked into the shop. My truck broke down about a mile from here. Can you help? Dina smiled. Of course. Let me get my tow truck. As they drove to get the woman's truck, Dina asked, Are you just passing through? Yeah, the woman said. Just passing through. Looking for, I don't know, a fresh start, I guess. Well, Dina said, Millbrook is a good place for fresh starts. I should know. Later, after Dina had towed the woman's truck and told her it would take a few days to fix, she watched the woman walk toward Martha's motel. She thought about how much her life had changed since the day her own truck had broken down in this town. She had come here broken and lost. She had found healing, purpose, and family. She had faced her darkest fear and emerged stronger. She had learned to forgive herself. She had learned to live again. And now, maybe, she could help others do the same. Dina looked up at the sky. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of orange and gold. It was beautiful. Thank you, she whispered. To Sarah, to her old team, to the universe, to whatever or whoever had brought her to this place. Thank you for giving me another chance. She walked back to her apartment, ready for whatever came next, because she knew now that she could handle it. Whatever challenges life brought, whatever darkness tried to pull her back, she had the strength to face it. She had learned the most important lesson of all. Healing isn't about forgetting the past or pretending the pain never happened. It's about carrying that pain with grace, learning from it, and using it to help others. She had come through the darkness and found the light. And now she could be a light for others. Dina Mercer was no longer running from her past. She was running toward her future, a future full of hope, purpose, and love. And that made all the difference. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear what inspired you the most. And where in the world are you watching from? Let us know below.